Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel and welcome to the new update on X4 that we finally got, and obviously it's aptly titled What's Next for X4, an earlier look into 2025. Now, as we know, we've had quite some time now with timelines and it's had its ups and downs, and there's been a lot of feedback from it as well. I'm probably going to say it's probably more of a neutral feedback. There's been a lot of positive feedbacks and a lot of negative feedbacks, but overall it's still, I think personally, still slightly positive rather than negative, but you know, it's one of them. So what are we looking at for X4 for the future? Well, this year there isn't much, as we've seen on the actual release of the news. For those of you who haven't seen the news already, hit your Steam page or obviously check out the forums. The full update is there on what they expect to do. However, today I'm going to go through it with you and give my views on some of the things as well. Before we start though, I would like to hear what your views are on X4 and how it could probably improve itself in the future. I have some personal opinions of my own. I think some cosmetic style DLCs might be a good idea for the game. I think small packages like Space Engineers had, where basically you had the core game, and then if you wanted the fancy looking stuff like new blocks and stuff like that, then you paid $3.99 for a small DLC and it gave you some extra blocks. It didn't change the fundamentals of the game. However, it did make your ships look slightly different, and I think on a game like this, where it's very solo player, I think introducing things like space station modules. So, for example, we've currently got like the 3 standard long ones, we've got the vertical one, and we've got the larger vertical one. I think having like L-shaped corridors, or you know, maybe a different style of production facilities that we already have, because at the moment we've got one model for each, and I'm obviously not taking into account that the Terran have their own style. I'm talking the generic models. I think if you could have where them generic models are basically, they look slightly different, maybe they're smaller, maybe they just look better in terms of what people are looking at, and designs could obviously be subject to what people are feeling like. But I think having them as a small mini DLC for cosmetic style of stuff, and I also think allowing, now I'll come to what they've said as well, allowing some of the DLC to be from mods as well. So like some of the ships that they've modded in from the previous versions of the game, as well as something that they should be looking at. So without further ado, let's have a chat about what is coming for X4. So straight away we can see that the flight model is one of the things that they are looking at bringing in. Overhaul of the flight model, rebalancing of every ship in X4, adding new sectors and graphical updates. So what does that actually mean? So the first quarter of 2025, so I'm presuming they're already working on this now. They are giving a major free update, and obviously at the bottom here you can see the paid section, which we'll talk about in a second. In this we are looking at the flight model of the ships to be improved. Now, along with the flight models, they're also balancing the new ships. I'm presuming that's going to be something that they do hand in hand, which would make sense considering you're already, doing some work on the ships. Then you may as well balance them at the same time. Now, apparently, to facilitate this, they partnered with John Pritchett, who is a former senior physics programmer on the Star Citizen development team. Hopefully, he's the good side of the Star Citizen side of stuff, because you can't argue that. Those of you who have played it, the ships fly pretty great in there. I love the flight of the ships. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think that could also be a potential for a future X series game, that they take that and they introduce more stuff like, for example, maybe planets. Landing on planets would be nice. That's something that could work from that flight model. But a lot of people have complained in the past that the complexity of the flight system isn't really the greatest. I don't think that's going to get any better, because I think Star Citizen is just as, if not more complicated when it comes to flight. But we'll see how it goes. Again, as I've mentioned, they're doing a rebalancing of the ships to make improvements. Obviously, there's engines, thrusters, ship components and stuff like that that will be rebalanced. They've also mentioned adding new sectors. Now, if you go into the more of the detail, a mention of this is that they're looking at basically linking the current systems that they've got from Cradle of Humanity and Kingdom N, which are one of the last 2 prior to timelines to have been added to the game, and they're looking at having the connection between the Boron and the Terran space a little bit more made up there, which will bring in new sectors, new connections, and will also have some adjustments to the in-game economy. So that's going to be interesting. In-game economy is definitely one for me to be interested about. I'm all about the economy. And then obviously more graphical updates. They are bringing DLSS and FSR 3 implementations. So those of you who rely on them or would like them, then they are coming, which is great. They're talking of significant enhancements to the graphics engine. Now, we have already seen some major changes, and it is hard to argue that they haven't brought them in, because personally I think they look amazing, and there is a major difference between the old graphical updates and the new ones. And I also have heard more predominantly that it has improved on people's performance overall, and allowed for lower graphics to then be played as well and make it a little bit easier, which is great. Now, that brings us to the mini DLC as well. Now, we're talking about the free update to have a smaller than usual DLC. Obviously, the content specifics apparently are still in the works, but it'll be more compact than previous X4 expansions. So that means they're going to probably bring in more expansions throughout the year. Now, we're obviously looking on the roadmap having 2 throughout the year, so rather than the one big one, we'll have 2 smaller ones. Personally, I think we can have some more room, as I've mentioned earlier, for additional DLCs, which I think they should consider. And again, I do want to hear your opinion as well, and let it be known, if you've got ideas, let them know. They check out these things. You know, I made a mistake on one of my videos, and I've had egosoft pull me up on it. Some are very minor, something very like specific to something that I completely missed. Which was the start of how you play for new players. Now, obviously, because I'm not a new player and I load up my screen, I hadn't seen that there was another way for a new player to start the game. Greg from egosoft very kindly pointed it out to me, so which I was then able to introduce to you guys. So these are looked at by the guys at X4. So if you've got your suggestions, don't make silly ones, don't make stupid ones. If it's something genuine, they're going to be listening to it. So get them down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure the voice is heard as well. And I may also do another video after this one talking about them. Okay, so back to the paid DLC. A confirmed feature is a reimagining of a fan favourite ship from the earlier X series, which I've mentioned. I think that's great. I think that's definitely what we want. It has been eagerly requested by members of the community. Again, I've mentioned they look at these things, they ask these questions. So the DLC will also feature some activities surrounding the acquisition of this ship, and maybe even its blueprint. Stay tuned and we may reveal the ship as a Christmas surprise. So hopefully by Christmas we may know. Still, I think the idea of acquiring the blueprints rather than just gaining a ship, I prefer that. I think that's going back to how we had it, where almost like where you start a new faction, you get all the stuff. I think you need to work for these blueprints. I think you shouldn't just be handed it. But I also don't think we should be doing things like we did for Timelines, which was completely separate from the entire storyline in some respects, to then gain these ships. Okay, so from there, we don't have anything about the second quarter of 2023. We now go into the third quarter of 2023, where it's talking about another update. This is Diplomacy. Planning a free base game update again, so this is another free update. New diplomatic options, diplomatic events, and NPC agents. What does that mean for us? This means that we will have an introduction of a new room in the player's headquarters, where faction representatives can gather and offer you strategic options. In addition to this room, players will have access to agent NPCs who can be dispatched on independent missions to achieve diplomatic goals in the X universe. The highlight of this update will be diplomatic events, giving players the opportunity to manipulate their own relations with other factions, and even in some cases between specific NPC factions. We'll have more to share. I think diplomacy is one of them things where it's been nice to have it as it is now, where you can build the diplomacy, but realistically it's a very stagnated part of the game. I think it locks behind a lot of stuff that you don't really need to work for to get. For example, in my save, all I do is trade mining materials and some bits, and my diplomacy goes up rapidly in terms of what I would normally expect. I think you should work harder for it. I think you should do missions to be able to achieve certain things. Like, for example, why are they giving you a license to buy weapons and stuff like that when all you've done is done a bit of mining for them and sold it to them? I think some of these things should be that you are sent away to prove yourself as a competent commander for their faction. They will then unlock that license that you have to then be able to move on and buy the licenses and the mods and, you know, the stuff for your stations and stuff like that. I think that's definitely something that should be in there. It would be nice to also not have to do that by hand and potentially, by the sounds of this, you'd be able to get an NPC agent where you may have to train. I think it should definitely have some training involved. I think you can't just send it on a high-level mission and expect it to succeed. I think there should be repercussions. If it fails, it should backfire on you. You should lose a lot of credits. Maybe you need resources to help. You know, maybe they need ships as well. You have to assign ships to them. I think that is how they should go with it personally, but we'll see how it goes. They may already have plans for it. Let's see. We also have a mini DLC as well announced, and it says to be determined. Depending on the success of the first mini DLC, we may follow up with a similarly sized DLCs to accompany other free base game updates. As you can see, our focus in 2025 is on consistent, impactful improvements to the base game, and as in the past, those base game updates will be free to existing X4 players, with mini DLC purchases supporting ongoing development. Guys, ships. More materials for the bases. The stations, there is not enough options for the stations. Let us get our creative freedom out there. Let's get more station modules. I'm not a developer, I don't know what it takes to do it, but I honestly think that the amount of time it would take to produce a selection of modules, and it doesn't have to be much either. I'd say, you know, if you had docking stations and connectors, if I got 10 different things, I'd pay $3.99 for that. Every day of the week, I would be buying that. You might disagree, that's your opinion, but I think having the option to build better stations and to have it where I can design something nice, you know, it looks cosmetically nice, and also it's not the same old. Like, if you built a station that's an Argon station, it's going to look like an Argon station, but if you've got something that's slightly different, nobody's just going to be the same. And it's going to be interesting to see, and I think you can then follow things like that with competitions and stuff, you know, where people can get creative with their ideas. I think that's a great idea. So definitely something. Now, from there, he talks about 2026. Now, this for 2025, I think the pre-updates is going to be quite a chunky bit. I think these two together are going to be about the size of what we've seen in the past from timelines, from Cradle of Humanity. The only thing we haven't seen is new factions. Diplomacy may potentially bring in new factions, which would be nice. I don't think we need all of what we get from new factions. I think these can be supplied by the mini DLCs, and we can introduce some new stuff in there as well. But 2026 is bringing exploration updates. In early 2026, we aim to release another major update, this time with a focus on exploration. This update will introduce new anomalies that guide players to unexplored sectors of the X universe, each with unique and exciting discoveries. As development progresses, we'll refine the details about these, such as improvements to long-range scanner gameplay and a range of missions for discovering these anomalies. Although this feature is still fairly early in its development cycle, exploration will definitely be an essential part of X4's future vision. We welcome your thoughts on this theme. So again, let's get some thoughts on this, guys. Let's get some ideas in the comment section, throw them my way, and I'm going to fire them back at them. They've said they want their thoughts on it. I'm going to give them all. My thoughts on it is, I think that is a potential way of introducing new factions through the diplomacy. I think you could also send out scout ships and stuff like that, and actually have them where they scout a little bit better. And I think I'd like to see, if they can, when you send a scout ship out doing scouting rather than just pressing explore, it would be nice to see a little bubble around it on the map. So when it deploys that long-range sensor, it just goes boom, like that, and you see like a little, almost like a sonar going from it. I think that'd be pretty cool, but that's a little bit of a cosmetic that I'd like to see. And again, there is another major update coming that they have not announced. It says they're looking further ahead. Most likely in the latter part of 2026, we have plans for yet another major update marking another milestone in the game's development. While we're keeping details very much under wraps for now, we can assure you that exciting additions and premieres are planned for the series. We hope this roadmap gives you a clearer, though admittedly still somewhat vague, vision of what's in store with X4 in the coming years. We can't wait to kick off the public beta for the next update, so be sure to stay connected to our communication channels. If you're new, then check out our link tree. They have a link tree which has all of the news and community resources. Also, I will bring you as much as possible in the updates as well, albeit this one was a little bit later than I planned. I will try and bring in more of the information that they have to you, and obviously how you can apply to stuff and how you apply to the public betas, how you get access to them. They're all free usually. There are some private betas that you may not get access to and I may not be able to talk about. However, hopefully we will be able to. All in all, I think this is a great look for X4. I think it's a better look than what we had with Timelines. I think Timelines wasn't the right playstyle when you've had you know, so many other DLCs play it one way. This is a radical change, and as they have mentioned, that most of X4's kind of development does go up and down. It does. They have plans at the beginning and then things change. I think having this roadmap give us an idea of what's coming is nice, and if it changes, I'm not really that worried. It'd be nice to see these things, but being updated is nice. All in all, as I said, great look for 2025, great look for X4. I'd like to see more DLCs, and I'm on about the paid DLCs. I think that'll support the egosoft production and the development side of things, and I also think it will benefit us, the players. Having all of this free update would be in DLCs. They don't fix broken things. They improve upon an already working system. They advance an already working system. They can also provide you with a whole new level of gameplay. This game 2 years ago was very different, and you can roll it back and play that game from 2 years ago. So in effect, you're getting free games for it, and they have the vision every time of what they want, and they improve on it every time. And I think having that option is great, but we don't pay for any of this, and I think that in itself is a testament to X4 and the development of their game and how much they are passionate about it. However, things don't come for free, and I think the way they do that is giving us something that we want, which for me personally is cosmetics. I don't like buying things that break a game. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a single player game, so yeah, if they're going to give me, you know, some of the ships out of X Beyond or Rebirth definitely. If you're going to give me capital ships from Rebirth, then I'm buying that all day long as well. They're the ones they want to be looking at, I think, personally. And I think the amount of money they could make from that will in itself grant the ability to do more of that. And personally, from a more of a profit side of things, I think that would work. Again, I'm not paid to say any of this. I just think that's my idea. I think that would be better for us. I think getting these ships and stuff like that and the cosmetics, they shouldn't be free. Unfortunately, the game's got to develop somehow, and people need paying to develop it. So if I'm going to pay for anything, I'd pay for something where it actually makes my game look better and makes me enjoy it a little bit more. If you're giving all this for free. But again, as I've said throughout this video, please let me know in the comment section if you've got any suggestions, ideas, or anything like that. But until next time, everybody, take care for now, and I shall see you all on the next one. Bye bye for now.